Okay, guys, we're going to get started.
All right.
We are holding now in the second last. There's 6 chapters left in the story of our lives. And as I was preparing for this class today, I realized that you can't go much more than 3 chapters for one class. It's a little too much to take in if we want to really have some sort of connection to it. So we have this class will be 16, 17, 18 in Mirza Hashem, and the last class next week in this book will be 19, 20, 21 Mirza Hashem. And that's where we're at. Okay, so let's get right into it. So when we last left our hero, he had fallen asleep, and the princess came and tried to wake him up, and he wouldn't wake up. And so she wrote with her tears on her scarf and left it for him, and that's where we are now. So I'll read the story and we'll get going. So after this, the viceroy awoke and asked his servant, "Where in the world am I? Heichan ani ba'olam?" Again. The servant told him, the viceroy, the entire story about the many soldiers that had passed, the chariot, the princess, and her great crying and grief. Suddenly he looked and noticed the headscarf next to him. "Where is this from?" he asked. The servant answered that the princess had written on it with her tears. The viceroy took the scarf and held it up to the sun. He began to see letters. He read that at this time she is no longer in the previous palace. Rather, you will need to search for a mountain of gold and a palace of pearls, and there you will find me. That's what she said. So the first thing we have to understand is, what does the sun have to do with the scarf over here? Last week we explained that the headscarf represents basically divine wisdom, intellect that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's why it goes on the head, right? And it's a garment that the tzaddikim in their Torah have to make a garment for the deep wisdom of Hashem. Have to put something over it so that we can receive it in the right way, right? Like, remember the invisible man mashal that we said, right? The invisible man, in order for us to see him, he has to wrap himself in towels and put on a trench coat and a hat and everything. So too, the tzaddikim bring down such deep Torah that we can only understand it when it has a lavush on it, a garment over it. And that's really, like I like to say, and we're going to have another example of this, what this story is. This story is the perfect example of it. A fable, a children's story that really holds like the deepest Torah in the world in it. Totally amazing. So we come now to where the viceroy takes this scarf and he holds it up to the sun. So what does the sun have to mean over here? So the sun, really, he explains, means the concept of emunah chachamim, having emunah in the teachings of the tzaddikim. It's one thing to know about them and to see them, but to really have emunah in them and treat them like this is a different story. So when I gave over the shir the first time, we explained this idea that the sun, we can't live without the sun. Actually, you made a comment, Rabbi Yaakov, in the original shir about the sun when we were talking about it. The sun is like gives life to everything in the world as a messenger of Hashem, right? The sun makes photosynthesis. The sun gives us the right temperature. The sun, we're nothing without the sun. If Hashem blew out the candle of the sun, so the planet would freeze, we'd be gone, we'd be a rock. That's it, right? And so we look at the sun and we see, like we explained, that's the way Avodah Zarah began, really. Like idol worship began, was seeing the amazing nature of the sun, right? But if we just think for a second, the sun is like, we can't live without it. We must have it. It's like, it's kemat, it's like air. It's like the air we breathe, right? It's oxygen for us. The sun, we need the sun. So too, this is the way that we have to look at the teachings of the holy tzaddikim. We have to have such emunah. We have to understand that the Torah that we learn from the tzaddikim, it's oxygen for us. We can't get through life without it. We must have it. We have to look. We have to always be longing for it. We have to always be looking for it. We have to take the advice of the tzaddikim and their tremendous wisdom and relate to it in a way like this, Like every time I open a book of Rabbi Nachman, I'm not just like, okay, something interesting is going to come out. I'm like, this is going to tell me what's going on in my life right now. This is going to give me exactly what I need right now, and I can't get along without it. That's how we have to look at this. Okay. So that's the first point. Awesome point. So if we have emunah, on the other hand, this story is another great example for this, right? Imagine that we never got together, all of us here. We never got together, and we never opened this book ever, right? We'd be like, oh, I heard there's some kind of story about a princess. Oh, that sounds like an interesting story, right? If we didn't approach this with some type of desire and emunah that we're going to find something in here, we would have just been like, oh, yeah, okay, a story about a princess, whatever. That's it. The fact that we had some kind of connection, some kind of emunah to actually go into this and spend time on it, we're able to pull out all these amazing, amazing teachings and pieces of advice, right? And he says over here, right? So if we hold it up to the sun, if we have emunah in the tzaddikim, we're going to see something amazing. But he says, I'll read here, if lacking faith, if we don't have emunah in this, what does that scarf become, that headscarf that she wrote on with her tears? A simple, meaningless scarf. That's what it could be. I can't imagine, like, ever living a life where I didn't get to go through this story. What's the point already? Right? It's unbelievable. Okay, emunas chachamim. So the next point that he makes over here is he calls it an elevated perspective, and he brings from Rav Kook over here. So what happens over here? The princess comes, and she writes something to him. She doesn't knock him down. She doesn't chastise him for failing, right? She doesn't say, and she leaves him this. She can't stay. He won't wake up. She goes on her way, but she leaves him something of encouragement, something of to cheer him on, to get him going, to finish the journey, because she has faith in him, because she believes in him, and because she knows he can do it. So it's a certain way of elevated thinking, of basic positivity, encouragement, always looking to this. So why is this so holy and so special? So he brings over here from the Torah of Kook. Kook has this. Kook is amazing, but he has this unbelievable hashkafa, this unbelievable idea that with regards to tshuva, that the all of the creation is always moving towards rectification and perfection. And everything that ever happens, everything's moving towards. So it's going to happen soon, whether we like it or not, right? Mashiach's going to come. There's going to be peace. Everything's moving, always moving towards perfection and rectification, right? So the tzaddikim see everything in the world through these glasses, and sometimes maybe we do also, in certain situations. But you may be able to look at someone who thinks that their life is terrible, and who thinks that they're not achieving anything, or who thinks whatever, and you could look at them and be like, wow, I've seen this person do some amazing things. This person's had a lot of growth, and they're kids struggling in school, and it's been a hard year or whatever it is, and they're like, yeah, it just keeps getting harder and harder, and this and that and that. But maybe the parent can look and see, wow, but this kid has grown over the last 6 months, like, amazing. Like, you can see from that perspective what the person has become. The tzaddikim see the whole world like this, and every single person they see like this. So this is the elevated perspective that someone can look at, always looking towards positivity and with emunah, that Hashem's running the world and leading everything to perfection. Right? It's tough to spend time, I'm telling you. I'm sure everybody knows, but it's tough to spend time with people who are super negative and to have conversations with people who are super negative. Like, it can just pull you down. It takes so much energy. It's so draining, right? When you have but if you're focusing on positivity and you're speaking with people and you're trying, right? Life is different. Okay, that's the second point. Third point of this chapter is the concept of the mountain of gold and the palace of pearls. So there's a few points that he brings in this with regards to this. The first idea is just this: that what do we think about when we think a mountain of gold? We think about a mountain. What's a mountain? It's a place of dirt and rock and mud and everything. And how do you find gold in such a place? You got to mine. You got to dig. You got to go through the mud and the dirt, and you got to clean it off, and you got to take the gold and melt it down and purify it, right? Like, it's a big process of literally digging through the dirt, right? But at the end, Mitzvah Hashem, you're going to come out with some gold. So the first perspective of the mountain of gold is this idea that getting through that, working through a life of challenge, working through all of our nisyonos, all of our tests, and holding strong, and at every test, just trying our best and just trying to make a Kiddush Hashem. Even we were going to fail, it's going to happen, and we're going to get back up and we're going to keep trying, right? Working in this kind of way, Hashem sees the end of that as a mountain of gold, right? Every step of the way, we're working and we're getting through. This is why we say, why the Zohar HaKadosh says, see if anybody remembers, we had this a few times throughout different Torahs, that there's one person who made such noise up in the holy realms, up in the upper worlds, that it was the biggest glorification of Hashem that this person achieved. Anybody remember who it is? It's a very good guess. Someone guessed Akiva, Rabbi Akiva. That's a good guess. Way back.
Oh, way back.
Biblical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it was Yisro.
Ooh.
The Zohar HaKadosh says that when Yisro, who was the head priest he knew every idolatry in the entire world, and he was the head priest of Midian, right? And he left it all behind and came to Hashem. The Zohar HaKadosh says that when he did that, there was never such a glorification of Shem Hashem as that moment.
Wow.
Right? Hashem likes it when people come from far away back to Kedusha. This is what Hashem wants. This is what the world is all about. Right? The Gemara also says, he brings down, that b'makom she Baal Tshuva oimed, a place where a Baal Tshuva stands, afilu tzadikim gamurim ein yochlim limud. Even a top level tzaddik cannot stand there. Why? Because the top level tzaddik didn't have to go through such a set of tests, which is hard to understand. But he didn't come from far away and come close to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Gemara says this. So and along the lines of this, he brings down from Rabbi Nachman that the prime focus of the Yetzer Hara is not to get us to do an Aveira. It's one of his focuses for sure, to get us to do bad things. But it's not the main focus. What he really wants is that he'll make us feel really bad about that Aveira, and put us into atzvus, into sadness, and pull us down and knock us completely off. That's what he wants. One sin is a few minutes, I guess, depending on the sin, right? but if we get pulled off from depression and sadness about such a thing, it could be weeks that we're knocked off. It could be months. It could be years, right? So once again, it's about this journey. It's about, like he says, every time we experience a setback in our avodah and presented with a choice to despair or continue the fight, we choose life, strengthening our resolve to continue the journey. We are bringing incredible honor to Hashem and revealing our intense love for Him. So this is the story. We have ups and downs. The mountain of gold is dirty, and it's hard work, right? But as long as we keep fighting and we keep going back to Hashem, we're going to end up with gold. Woo. Yeah, he brings also from Reb Nosson. But in truth, all of these thoughts and assumptions are the acts of the Yetzer Hara, so as to provide him with an excuse to separate from Hashem and follow his desires, chas v'shalom. That's the main goal. Okay. So this is what we want to see. through the journey. We go, we fight, we always come back, even if we fail. We always know we got to stay on their journey. It's the encouragement of the princess, right? She sees our potential. She wants us to go. So the next section of this chapter is very complicated, and it's a very deep idea. But we're gonna say it outside a little bit, just so we hopefully we'll have a pretty good understanding of it. But it's this whole discussion of what's called the inyan of Yediah and Bechira, of Hashem's foreknowledge versus our free will. It's a big discussion amongst many people. How could it be that Hashem knows what's going to be and we still have free will, right? Okay, I don't want to talk about it right now. We spent time about it in the past, right? Basically, we just have to know that, like he says over here, although everything is foreseen to the full extent of the word and thus is predetermined, it does not negate our experience of free will and the ability to freely create our destiny. Okay. Somehow, we're not able to understand this. This is what Rabbi Nachman says in the Likutei Moharan, right in the Likutei Moharan. He says, it's not going to be possible to understand this until after Mashiach comes, until we have this paradigm shift in Das in the world. We have a new way to see God in the world, right? We're not going to be able to understand this. So Rabbi Nachman literally says, like, don't even try. Don't be bothered by this. You can't do it now, right? But what does it have to do with this situation over here? This is part of a big build-up here, which is one of my favorite parts of the whole book that we're going to, in Mitzvah Hashem, get to over here. Let me just make sure I see the right place where it... Yeah. So like this. We go through a lot of difficulties in our lives, and we see that we fall into low places. And in those low places, we use our free will and we do things that we shouldn't do. And we feel bad about them. And we do tshuva, right? This is what happens. And we have to take full responsibility for those. And we have to do it. We have to do our best to do good things. But when we fall short and we do aveiras, we do things we shouldn't do, we have to always have 100% responsibility for these things. We have to be strong, and we have to own them, right? Not behave like a victim, take responsibility, and move forward. This is what Hashem wants from us. Because as soon as if we would start looking back and viewing it in a different way, and blaming everyone else, what happens? We never achieve growth. Blaming other people for our mistakes only deflects the reality and the truth of why I made those mistakes. I never address them so long as I'm blaming someone else. I'm just covering over it, and I'm never moving. I'm never growing. I'm never moving. Right? So it's an important message that we have to always live strong with our free will and try to do the right thing, and when we don't, take responsibility and work to fix it. All with simcha. Right? It's going to happen. So we have to do it this way. But there's a little bit of a deep way to look at this that Rav Tzadok HaKohen brings down. Tzadok HaKohen was a Talmud of the Mea Shilech from the line of Ishbitz, and this line is one of the only groups, one of the only sects, I guess, that talk about something that is very controversial. It shouldn't be, but it could be used in a negative way. So we have to make sure that we explain it in the right way so I don't get in trouble. Right? But it says like this. Really, I'm going to read here, okay? Because this is deep stuff. Having assigned these contradictory truths to separate experiences of reality, meaning the fact that I had free will to do something, but Hashem knew it was happening, knew it was going to happen already. Rav Tzadok then treats an unspoken question. Is it ever possible for a Jew to peek behind the curtain and attain the divine realization that the sins he committed were in fact predetermined and part of God's will, which is perfectly good? that question, once again, basically is there ever a time when a Jew can say, that sin that I did, Hashem wanted it to happen, and it was predetermined that it was going to happen? Can we ever say such a thing? Does there ever come a time when we can make use of this awesome knowledge, seeing our negative decisions as having been part of the master plan? Can we ever look at it this way? That's the question. So the general answer, which everybody you have to say, but also it's important to know, is that the truth is absolutely yes. But it must be that we always know, first and foremost, that there's two modes of living that we have to have. The first mode is, before I've done something, an Aveira, I must do everything in my power not to do it. I can never say, I'm going to go do this Aveira, this sin. Why? Because if I do it, that means Hashem wanted it. So it's okay, right? We can never, ever, ever say such a thing. And if we do that, it doesn't work. We're living a lie. Then it doesn't work. Right? So, however, after we have done everything in our power to live the way we're supposed to do, and we fail, there is such an idea to be able to look back and to understand that everything that happened was absolutely necessary. Everything that happened was absolutely necessary. And there's two levels. One level is to just be able to not be depressed. This is the first normal person level, right? Just not be depressed. Okay, listen, I did something wrong. And if I focus on it, because I'm a moon person, which we're gonna see in one of the coming chapters, it's just gonna ruin my whole, day, week, month, year, whatever it is. I have to say, you know what? There's something for me to learn there. I'm going to dig through the rubble, like Reb Nosson said. I'm going to take the lesson that I need and move forward. Right? Okay, that's one level. But what Rabbi Nachman says what Rabbi Yaakov says over here, bringing from Rav Tzadok, is like this. He says that there's a certain level that we can reach when we do real tshuva. And there's a concept everybody's heard of probably, that when a person does tshuva me'ahava, real strong tshuva out of love, that their intentional sins become merits. Zechuyos, right? There's only nice zechuyos. So whatever that means in most people's mind, like Hashem changes the scoreboard, is it? What does it really mean? One of the things that he's saying over here is, if we get to such a level where we achieve something so real and so powerful, we experience such a change and such a growth, that we're able to look back at those things that happened, not just to be like, okay, I messed up, but you know what, I'm moving forward. But we look back, not even to say, I learned a lesson that I'm taking with me. But we're able to look back and say, wow, those were just as important. Those moments were just as important as my moments of total tshuva. Those formed me. Those made me. Those were gold the whole time. Right? Being able to look back and see from a higher perspective, everything that occurred was not only okay, it was absolutely necessary. And it was like Hashem was holding my hand through the whole thing, encouraging me through every moment that had to be. And that was the thing that turned me into who I am. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be on the level that I am now. Those experiences were absolute total gold. That is the time when we can use this perspective to look back. If we reach such a level, to look back and say, that had to happen. That was predetermined by Hashem. Hashem wanted that to happen. Right? Once again, just for clarity's sake, so I don't get in trouble, we can never approach living our lives like this to say, I'm going to do a sin because really it's necessary for me. it doesn't work. It won't work. It'll backfire. Right? But what a level to look back and say, wow, and it's going to carry us through the next few ideas in all these chapters. Wow, listen to these words here. At this point, having achieved a secure plateau of growth and rectification, the truth of Yediyah, foreknowledge, provides a retrospective, past-oriented encouragement, bringing one to the awareness that this entire process was part of the master plan, and that it couldn't have happened any other way. In the place where a Baal Tshuva stands, even a perfect tzaddik cannot stand. Right? By the way, he brings over here, and there's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah on Daf Dalet Amud Beis that tells us this very clearly. But people don't like to talk about it for the same reasons. But just let's remember, we're talking about this in a healthy way. The Gemara says that David HaMelech really did not do the sin with Bathsheba. It was, Rashi says over there, Gzeirus HaMelech. It was a divine decree. It had to happen. Why? To teach us about tshuva. The Bnei Israel did not make the golden calf. Same Gemara says. Same thing. Hashem made it happen in order to teach the concept of tshuva to the whole Klal Yisrael. The Gemara says this. Not me. No Hasidim, no nothing. The Gemara itself. Okay, it's dangerous to expound these things without proper guidance. But this idea that when we get to a future place and we'll be able to look back and see how those things formed us and shaped us is a tremendous idea of encouragement. And I hold, personally, for myself and most of the people that I know, maybe we have a bit of an experience of this. Maybe some of us at some times, right? and we have that feeling, maybe. But one thing that we can really use it for, this I feel is important for most people I know these days, is to say if I do something that I shouldn't do, and I come out of it, is to be able to say, okay, I have to move forward now with what? Encouragement, positivity, and simcha, for many reasons, right? But one of those reasons is, who knows why I had to do that? Maybe there was other factors in play in the divine plan, right? Maybe it wasn't just me being terrible. Maybe there's more going on than my tiny, narrow perspective really realizes, right? So this is the idea of the Golden Mountain. It's not a mountain of mud and earth and dirt with some gold mixed into it. The entire mountain is made of gold. It's a golden mountain. This is the idea that looking backwards, we're going to see not that I was mining gold and pulling it out from dirt and working through the mud. The whole entire mountain was gold, always. Everything was gold, always. This is the perspective that we're going to be able to see. All the darkness, all the challenge, all the pain, everything was absolute gold. And then we come to the Palace of Pearls. Right? The Palace of Pearls, it's in a certain sense it's the opposite, but you put the two things together and it makes good sense. So he brings out, what's the story with a pearl? How's a pearl made? Right? So what he says, I'm trusting him. He says that what happens with a pearl is you got a clam, right? And some kind of piece of like a mineral or a rock or something gets inside the clam. And while the clam's doing its thing, being a clam, it gets all, whatever, layer upon layer of clam saliva, I don't know, whatever, it builds up over top of this thing, and slowly it grows and it comes bigger and bigger and bigger, and through that, a pearl is created. What do we see from here? The process of making such a beautiful thing, a valuable, incredible pearl, is not pretty. And it's in the depths, it's down under the water, it's on the seashore, on the seafloor, and it's in a disgusting clam, and it's layer upon layer upon layer, building slowly and slowly and slowly. That's how you build a beautiful pearl. That's where we're going towards, the Palace of Pearls, right? So, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but together with the Golden Palace, the Golden Mountain, right? It's like that process. Really, it's gold. It's all gold. The Golden Mountain is showing us that even the process of the pearl, right? The whole thing was gold. That's the way I like to see it. Everybody with me? That is chapter 16. Okay, chapter 17. He left his servant behind and went to search for her alone. His search for her lasted many years. Eventually, he came to the realization that this mountain of gold and palace of pearls certainly does not exist in the settled parts of the world, for he was an expert in all the maps of the world. He said, "I will go to the deserts," and he went to search for her in the deserts for many years. After this, he saw a tremendously large person who didn't seem to be human at all because of his enormous size. He carried a huge tree. No tree in the settled world was as large as this tree. The giant asked him, "Who are you?" He responded, "I am a human." The giant was astounded, and he said, "It has been so long since I have been in this desert, and I have never seen a human here." That's the story. Okay, so the first point that he discusses over here is the fact that he's going to leave behind his servant now, right? Do you guys remember what was the value of the servant in the past, L'chaim? Intellect, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the intellect was, what did the intellect do for us? The intellect was the one who stayed awake when the soul was asleep. When we didn't feel something, when we were lost, when we were totally spiritually asleep, the intellect kept on and sort of held watch, held guard over the sleeping viceroy, right? So the way that Rabbi Yaakov Klein explains it now is it's been a long time now, it's been decades, and he's had tremendous growth. He's become more wise, more mature, a lot of ups and downs he's been through. Radical truths, listen to this is some awesome stuff. Radical truths have affected a revolution in his essence. Truths like the ideas that a lull can sometimes signify entry to a new phase of spiritual growth. Right? Remember this idea? Sometimes when we go into a difficulty, it's actually because we just got into a new higher level. This is a mind-blowing idea that a person can feel at every level. Failures are a necessary part of the growth process. Another one. Personal prayer is the key to spiritual success. Yearning is intrinsically valuable. Without any results, just yearning for something has its own value. Freedom of choice sits at the core of human stability, and when the going gets tough, it is an indicator that one is very close to his goal.
Really?
When the going gets tough, it's an indicator that one is very close to his goal, or her. Right? So, he's gained a lot. He's grown a ton. He's at a new level now. And what does he realize at this point? He realizes that he's going to keep going, and he knows he's still going to face challenges. But he's reached such a level of growth that he knows that he's not going to go into spiritual hibernation again. He knows he's not going to be totally asleep for 70 years, and that the servant's going to have to watch over him. He's gotten to a place beyond that. So we see from here, by the way, Chaver, that there is hope. Because, we always talk about how life's always going to be ups and downs. But remember, like the stock market, those ups and downs are moving towards something. And we're going to see there's going to be times when we're able to sort of perch ourselves on that high mountain that we've climbed and look back down and actually finally see something. Oh, it's still going to be hard. We're still going to have to climb more and face challenges. But we're gonna get milestones, and we're gonna get periods where we have some like he's saying over here, some retrospective clarity of an amazing nature. Okay, so this is what he's experiencing. He sees this now, right? And so now that he's about to go on to the final stage of his journey, he says, "You know what? I can leave the servant behind now. I don't need to be. I'm not worried. I'm gonna be successful." So he says he treads the threshold of a new stage alone with the confident optimism of a warrior. He has made peace with himself. His ugly errors are illuminated with the brilliant light of the lesson at their core. He realizes where he's at. He can go ahead now. I love this word, by the way, he used over here. With the confident optimism of a warrior. What does that mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like this in a certain way. Okay, I know, this week I'm going to get phone calls, and there's going to be a bunch of difficult things to deal with. It's going to be hard, and people are going to be in bad situations, and things are going to happen. But let's do it. I know that's what it's going to be. But I know from experience and from past growth that this is what we're here for. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to grow through all these things. We're going to keep moving, right? So the confident optimism of a warrior doesn't mean that I sit back and say, everything's going to be fine now and easy. Because I've really grown and I'm awesome now and nothing's ever going to tear me down. It just means that I have such emunah and I've experienced so many ups and downs. I've come so far that I'm able to say now, okay, it's going to be hard. Let's do it. I'm going to do it. Let's just jump in. Let's do our part and grow through this. Confident optimism of a warrior. Love that. Okay, so then he says, he brings this idea of an illogical mode of progression. So he says over here that he was miyashev atzma, he settled himself, which we said refers to hispoidedus. But he says over here a different idea also. A second. Yep. Okay, it says like this. Like we said before, just it goes back to it a tiny bit, but just like we said, that we cannot learn and grow from our mistakes if we don't take responsibility for them. Right? It's like, imagine, if you have someone who's going through a lot of problems in their lives. Maybe they're facing, the challenge of like ruined relationships. Maybe it's divorce. Maybe it's with other members of her family, of one's community, of whatever it is. And at every place, everything's falling apart. And it's happening over and over again with different people. Right? And the person continues to blame every one of those people. And says, this person doesn't see things the way I need them to see. This person doesn't see things that this person doesn't. This person doesn't. Right? And really, all of those other people are able to see that this person has something that they need to deal with. And so long as that person keeps sending the blame to every single other person, that person will never grow. The person will never get past that because it's just covering it up. Right? So there's an aspect of growth which only comes from, listen to this, a few ideas. Retrospective awareness may only be grasped by a person who understands that from our perspective, freedom of choice is an absolute truth. It is only when one who takes full responsibility for his actions and bears the burden of guilt for the years it takes to rectify his misdeeds, in a future filled with positive choices, who can merit this awareness at the proper time and the proper manner. One who enters in the realm of Yediyah without the requisite anchoring in the truth of Bechira, anchoring to my free will, to my decisions. I'm responsible for my decisions. I have to be anchored in those. Only when I'm anchored in that free will can I step out of it to look back and see the bigger picture that Hashem sees. Requisite anchoring in the truth of Bechira causes a tremendous breach, which will likely have an incredibly detrimental effect on his avodas Hashem chas v'shalom. The foundational premise of our Holy Torah is this experience of Bechira. That is our truth and the absolute reality of our perspective. So what does he say over here? Is that the person has to go into the aspect of simplicity. I have to, despite the tremendous growth that I've had, I have to, in a certain sense, step back a little bit and just go into an existence of simplicity. Oh, I went from this place to this place to this place, and now I'm in a new place, and the princess left me something, and I'm communicating with the princess, and now I'm in this place, and there's giants carrying big trees. Like, I'm something special now, right? Maybe now I don't have different avodah. Hold on a second. Who said? You still have to live in a way of absolute simplicity. You have to do what the halachas that Hashem told you to do. You have to do the mitzvahs in the Torah that Hashem told you to do. And you have to do it with simplicity and take responsibility for all your mistakes still. And if you don't do that, you're never going to get to that other side. Right? So he says like this. This part is titled, one second, an illogical mode of progression. Illogical mode of progression. So Rabbi Nachman tells us that he was intimately familiar with the standard growth process, the ironclad rules of a geographical journey, where only forward movement brings one from point A to point B. The story says that he was a master of all the maps of the world. What do the maps of the world tell us? If you want to get here, you have to go from A to B. That's what they tell us. He has begun to taste the reality of heaven's super-rational perspective, the otherworldly method of growth, which can only be attained in retrospect. It can only be attained looking backwards. It's the opposite of the regular progression, a regular map, the way it goes. So that's why the new place that he's in is now in a desert again. What's a desert? A desert is a place where you don't see regular growth. It's not a normal place for growth. So too, in the desert that he's in now, he's been through desert, field, forest, desert, field, forest, desert, field, forest. Now the desert that he's in is a desert where the growth doesn't look like normal growth. That's what a desert's like. It's only from looking back and seeing everything that's happened that he's able to experience this now, the way that we were saying it before. Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of the main idea of that whole thing to do with the golden mountain, the retrospect, the free will versus versus the foreknowledge of Hashem. The last part of this chapter is this concept of Malchus and the two Malchus of Beis David and Beis Yosef. So let's get into it. What are we holding time? Yeah. Okay, this is good stuff, by the way. So, okay, Malchus. Everybody knows the sphere of Malchus. It's the bottom sphere of the 10 spheres, right? And it's also the princess. And it's also Shabbos, right? And it's also Klal Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael. It's all these things. And the sphere of Malchus, it receives from all of the 6 spheres above it. Well, really all of the 10, but okay? That means it receives both from right and left. It receives both from Chesed and Gevura. Chesed and Din. It receives both. So, Malchus is sometimes a bit of a mess. Sometimes she's up, sometimes she's down. Sometimes she's happy, sometimes she's angry. This is what Malchus is all about. So, let's read this. Because the spheres above her derive from both Chesed and Din, Malchus consists of a dual nature. At times it is shining with the fullness of blessing, life, joy, and all measures of goodness, while at others it is dull, devoid of light, and fraught with severity and judgment. Likened to the moon by the Zohar HaKadosh, Malchus is dynamic. She ebbs and flows in a cyclical progression, full at times and empty at others. Right? This is the moon. The moon goes, and sometimes it's full, and sometimes it's gone. Sometimes it's very bright. Sometimes there's nothing. It's dark. So, this is also the concept of Klal Yisrael. This is us throughout the years, throughout the history. Sometimes we're up and we're shining. The period where the Beis Hamikdash of Shlomo Melech stood is called, by I think in the Zohar HaKadosh, is called the Sira B'Shleimusa, the moon in its fullness, in Aramaic. That was a full moon. That was when Klal Yisrael was as bright as ever, right? Mashenkin. Other times we're low and we're dark. The pasuk in I think Shir Hashirim, Reb Nosson brings at the beginning of Hilkuti Halachas, referring to the Torah Zamra, is talking about my beloved Shechora Ani Venava. I'm dark and black, but I'm beautiful, like both, right? I was going to say I'm black and beautiful, but it doesn't always translate well. That's not what it means, really. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, this is why David HaMelech, this is so awesome. David HaMelech and Mashiach are all bound to this. Right? What's the life of David HaMelech? I'm going to read this also. As the chariot for the Midah of Malchus, the energy of the lost princess. The persona of David HaMelech reflects all facets of her energy. in a lifetime marked by tremendous grandeur and success, as well as devastating hardship. David came to embody the pulsating heart of the Jewish nation. That's why Tehillim is like our lifeblood. Everything that David HaMelech wrote. He was the person who was the king, and he was at the top. But at the same time, he was chased and tried to be, his own son tried to murder him. He was cast away from his brothers, and Shalom Melech was sent to try and kill him. Like, his life was so up and down. But he's David HaMelech. He's the one who we say, who's Mashiach going to be? Mashiach ben David. Masai ben David ba. That's what the Gemara says. When is the son of David coming? Talking about Mashiach. Right? Listen to this. I'm reading more because he wrote this so beautifully. On his level, David sins, or at least appears to sin, with Bathsheba, and carries the pieces of his broken heart back to the master of the world in melodies of hope and desperation. He is at times a king, and at others an outcast. At times a chassid, and at others a wrongdoer. At times a fearsome warrior, and at others a kind-hearted musician. Like the sphere of Malchus, David's stormy soul ebbs and flows, rises and falls, brightens and dims. This is David HaMelech. Okay, why do we care? Okay, he's going to say that thing over here. So, why do we care? Why does David have to be this person? So as the Sfarim HaKadoshim say, what's Mashiach going to be when he comes? Right? Mashiach is going to be the one who's able to reveal the true goodness of each and every Jew. He's going to be the one who's going to be able to see the soul of each Jew and see those good things, everything that they went through, and where they came from, and why they somehow merited to be there at the time when he came, when Mashiach comes. He's going to be able to see this of everybody. So, therefore, listen to this. The figure who is going to bring the world to its final, eternal rectification must embody the spirit of Malchus Beis David, the kingdom of Tshuva, the living testament to the concept of Gzeras HaMelech, the eternal truth that Hashem's unfounded will encompasses all. He has to be able to look back and say, oh, you know what? I come from the same place that you came from. You know how your soul and your life, you went through all these ups and downs, and you did a bunch of things that were really bad. You know what? That was all part of the plan. And that was all part of your growth. That's all part of what got us to where we are. Klal Yisrael has done terrible things in the past. Terrible things. But do we say that's it? Forget it? Klal Yisrael's gone, done? Some people say that. But, right? No. That's part of the growth. That's part of the way that we're going to achieve perfection, is through going through those things and accepting them, and like we said, not blaming anyone else for it, taking responsibility and moving forward. That's what it's all about. Mashiach has to come from David, the guy who was the king and who was the convict, right? The guy who was the powerful warrior, but the kind-hearted musician. That's why Klal Yisrael is the moon. Sometimes we're bright and sometimes we're dark. This is how it's going to be. Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. Tzadik has to fall 7 times and gets up, right? Why 7? Why not shisha yipol tzadik v'kam? Why not eser yipol tzadik v'kam? Why? Because 7 is the surah of Malchus. 7 is the surah of Malchus. That's what Malchus is all about. The princess never gives up hope. Never ever gives up hope. That's why she's connected to the moon and the month, and the Rosh Chodesh, right? Because Rosh Chodesh is his chadshus, is renewal. It's coming from that dark place and saying, no way, I'm going for it. I'm back. I'm moving on with positivity. It has to be like this. Okay, I made a big mark beside this one. It must be good. Let me read it. At this point in the tale, having discovered a second facet of Malchus, it becomes clear that if the viceroy is to extract the princess of youthful passion... Oh, 1 second. Oh, yeah. 1 second, hold on. Yeah. So, okay, if you remember way back when, he titled one of his chapters called Extraction by Emulation. That if we want to be able to free the princess, we have to emulate the princess. And what was the aspect of the princess? Was the non-measurable things, right? The things that were connected to the heart, to the soul, was the longing and the desire, right? So this was the one aspect that we had to have in the past. That's why he had to spend a whole year desiring her, because it wasn't just to build up energy. It was because he was emulating the aspects of her, those things that can't be measured, those things that are just inside, right? Soul things, heart things. He had to desire her for that whole year. Now he's realizing this. That this is like mind-blowing. This is totally mind-blowing. It's not only that we have to go through these ups and downs, because those are the things that are gonna give us this the muscle building, right? And we need to learn things there. That's all true. Not only that, but we're emulating the Shechina over here. We're emulating Malchus Beis David. We're emulating the Sri of Malchus. We're emulating the Shechina. We're emulating the entire history of the universe. We're emulating creation, which has to experience darkness first before light can come in, at every level. So the ups and downs that we are experiencing are not only to build certain aspects of us. We are being the princess. We're being the moon. We're being the Shechina. We're being Malchus. We're being Klal Yisrael. Just by going through these ups and downs, we're emulating. And as soon as we say, I got to get off this train, I'm done, forget it. Okay, then we're done for real. As long as we keep working and we keep moving on with positivity, every time we fail and we succeed and we fail, it's just another Hischadshus, it's another Chodesh, it's another Rosh Chodesh. Right? Unbelievable. Yeah, so now I can read it. At this point in the tale, having discovered a second facet of Malchus, becomes clear that if the viceroy is to extract the princess of youthful passion and connection by way of emulation, he too will need to experience the frenzied ups and downs of her cyclical journey. Wow. Okay, last part of this chapter. Let's see. I was really hoping to get through chapter 18 also today, but okay, we'll see. It's been 52 minutes, I guess not. All right. Is the difference between Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. So everybody knows Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef is the one who builds everything up, right? And who Yosef came to Mitzrayim to first take care of everything, get everything set up properly. So what? So Moshe Rabbeinu could be the one who leads the Geula. He's like the Mashiach ben David in that version, right? Okay. So David HaMelech, he's the guy who represents the Baal Tshuva, the one who comes from a low place and goes high, the one who's filled with ups and downs. Yosef HaTzadik, why is he called Yosef HaTzadik? Because he never fails. He experiences his big challenge and he succeeds, right? That's why he's so unusual. He's called Yosef HaTzadik, right? So he's different. And the giant now is the representation of this type of person, right? So such a giant is like strong and powerful and doesn't make mistakes and fits in with everything and always everything always fits into the systems and fits in with the right. And he's carrying a gigantic tree. Why? It's Torah. He can learn every single day and have a great knowledge of everything, right? But he's not a David HaMelech type at all. He sees what's going on with a David HaMelech type of person and looks down on him. It's like, what are you doing? You're not doing what Hashem told you to do. Why are you making mistakes? You can't do that. What are you singing songs for? What are you spending time out in the mountains, David HaMelech, talking to Hashem? Open a sefer, learn. What's wrong with you? You're wasting time. That's what such a person would say, right? So it's for this reason that Yosef HaTzadik, he has in his name one letter from Hashem's name, right? And the name Yehuda, who David HaMelech comes from also, in his name is all the letters of Hashem's name. Because Yehuda, in his situation, what did he do? He made a mistake, and he stood up and took responsibility for it, and said, "She's right. I did something wrong. I'm taking responsibility for it. Mashiach comes through him. David comes from Yehuda, right? And he has all the letters of Hashem's name in his name. And and it's because of this that. But Yosef, on the other hand, he doesn't make a mistake. He makes it through. Yeah, awesome. So another totally amazing idea that we see over here. This is fantastic. So Yosef, let's just read this. Yosef's concealed act of honoring Hashem earned him one letter of Hashem's name. Okay? Yehuda's public honoring of Hashem earned him all four. That's the first point. The second point is, while after Yosef's heroic act of passing a test, a letter was added to his name, Yehuda's public tshuva seems not to have changed anything. His name had always been Yehuda. Long before he did tshuva, and even long before the episode with Tamar. Long before he did anything. What do we see by Yehuda? We see that Yehuda's tshuva, which brought about the awareness that the entire process was part of Hashem's master plan, allowed for the revelation that while only being revealed now, the reward of Yehuda's tshuva was present even before he sinned. He always had those letters in his name. Hashem saying, his story is one of the stories that's showing you that everything that was going on had to be. And it was all part of the master plan. And he had to take responsibility and do his part within that master plan. And that's how his greatness was revealed. But it was always there throughout every step of the journey. Same thing that we've been saying over here before, right? And so you see, this is where Mashiach comes from. Where does Mashiach come from? He comes from that union of Yehuda and Tamar. He comes from strange places. That union of Yehuda and Tamar was the beginning of the seed of Mashiach. And because Mashiach has to come from this type of person. David HaMelech, Yehuda, Mashiach. That's how it goes. Not in that order. Okay? So we see that the first giant is the master of beasts. And he says, I've never seen a human here before. What is he saying? He's looking around. He's saying, I'm a giant. I'm a big tzaddik. And I'm on such a high level. This place, I'm carrying the entire Torah as a tree in my arm. This is a place of very high level people. I've never seen a guy like you here before. You, Adam, human. What's with you? Because the Adam can mean two things. It can mean, like he said, he brings over here, it can mean Adama, which means the ground, or Adameh le'elyon. I will be like the upper supernal living. I'll be spiritual greatness, right? So he says, it's been so long that I've been in this place. I've never seen a human before. How did you get here? What are you doing here? How did you get to this place? And so the awesome part is that the viceroy doesn't even know. He doesn't even know where he is. He's a humble, holy person who's working through, with simplicity, his ups and downs. He's going through life. He's trying to find the princess with a pure heart and a simplistic approach. He doesn't care where he is. He doesn't realize that I'm on a level compared to anyone else. He is doing him, right? He doesn't care what other people are doing, and he doesn't even realize it. So the Baal Tshuva, it's awesome. The Baal Tshuva constantly feels as if he is only just beginning, proceeding with a simple sweetness and a sense of modesty. This is what the viceroy is. I don't care where I am compared to anyone else. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I'm just going to do my best. I'm going to try to be me and be the best me that I can be. That's what such a person does. Yeah, such a great chapter. Okay, let's just give a quick introduction, because we got to finish this next week. Okay, we can't have too many times here. The next chapter, chapter 18, I think we'll wrap it up very quickly. Is the chapter that talks about sun people versus moon people, right? And we alluded to it a few times already. But let's just say a few things over here. Sun people are shallow, vain, and drawn after externalities. With no grand aspirations for their personal development, they live lives free of inner struggle and failure. Their lives are not marked by the endless searching of a stormy soul for the deeper meaning of existence. That's stam. On a religious level, such people are perfectly satisfied with the level of their avodas Hashem, feeling no sense of lack or compulsion toward growth. Like the sun, they are unchanging and always the same. Such is a sun person. Moon people, on the other hand, are just the opposite. In touch with the loss of the princess in their lives, these Jews feel compelled to embark on a soul journey, an epic search for the inner dimension of Yiddishkeit. If you are listening to this shir right now, you are a moon person, for sure. If you're in this realm of this kind of Torah, you're almost for sure a moon person. Constantly wondering how they might fill the vacant space that sits at the essence of their being. This is a moon person. I gotta read this also, Rav Kook. These people never have any rest. They are always in a state of drama. Either they are ascending to the sublime heights of heaven, or they are descending into the bitter depths of disaster. Either or, right? These people need to concentrate on spiritual growth every day. Such people, when they have discovered a way of life that suits them, they will ascend higher and higher. On the other hand, if they neglect their personal paths, they will most likely collapse and descend lower and lower. You're either things are, oh, wow, amazing. I'm inspired. I'm moving. This stuff. I saw this. I heard this. I heard this happened, and I saw this. And I did this tshuva finally. Amazing, right? Or like you're down, right? You're done. You don't want to talk to anybody. You're out. You're like like scrolling through your phone. You're all this whatever. That's it. It's either or by such a person. However, okay, he says, Rabbi Klein says, and I think it's very true, that most people are not 100% either or. We're complicated. We're a composite of the two. Maybe in some areas we're unchanging. In some areas we have some stability, right? And in some areas we're up and down. Some areas we have passion, and in other areas we're more sunny. We're more just even. Everyone's different. We're made up of different aspects. However, the giant now over here. So some people can be like this, lacking sensitivity to the depth of a moon person's struggle, or more accurately, threatened by the reminder that there's more to life than the life they currently lead. The sun people generally respond in two ways, either by mocking the moon people and their search, or by growing angry and insisting that the search is futile, and that the kind of life that moon people are looking for simply doesn't exist. I have written here in my own writing over here something that Rabbi Moshe Weinberger said. He said, go to your local lamdan. Lamdan, someone who's just a learner, right? Someone who sits learning Gemara all day. There's plenty of wonderful people who sit and learn Gemara all day. I'm not knocking, right? But these types of people who are like, they're not willing to look at moon people. They don't care about emotion. They don't care about spirituality. And they just, right? Black and white, sun. That's it. So go to your local lamdan and tell him you are looking for the lost princess. See what he says. Tell such a person to, you know what? I have a story. It's about a king and a princess and a search and some magical places and a palace of gold. Let's learn it. You know what? Let's spend like 30 hours learning it. What do you think? Right? This guy's going to think you're crazy, and he's going to say, "What? I don't know what religion you come from, but leave me alone and quit wasting so much time." That's what such a person is going to say. Right? It's a different. It's mocking, and I'll tell you, you're not going to find anything there. It's all shtus. It's all in your mind. It's all imaginary, right? And this is the kind of stuff that you could hear from such people. What are you interested in Chassidus for? It's all just taking you away from the real Torah, right? What do you need Kabbalah for? What are you an angel? You don't need that. Just open a Gemara. That's it, right? Mocking and telling you that what you're looking for doesn't exist. This is what the giant tells him. What you're looking for doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And he's the sun person. So he represents the great intellectuals, the scientists, philosophers, mathematicians, doctors, and historians who have unanimously come to the authoritative conclusion that the human soul is a myth, And there is no more to life than can be tested, comprehended, and calculated. The second version. First, you can have the lamdan, and then you can have the scientist, atheist, whatever it is. I have 3 little circles here. Let's see. Lacking a sense for the spirit of our holy tradition and the imperative rule of the lost princess of Emunah, prayer, Hispoidus, Yiras Shamayim, Simcha, simplicity, sweetness, humility, yearning, and brokenheartedness must play in a Jew's relationship with the master of the world. This is the type of person. These so-called teachers maintain an incredibly shallow relationship with Yiddishkeit, while the trees they carry are indeed impressive and grand, powerful big trees of Torah. They are unfortunately no longer connected to the ground of the neshama and her desire for true closeness with the source. It's been plucked from the ground. It's not connected anymore. Making use of every opportunity to mock, berate, belittle, condemn, and delegitimize the moon people and their tear-soaked journey of deep sincerity. These giants insist that there is no more to Judaism than the purely intellectualized study of Gemara and rote conformance to the minutiae of halacha. That's it. Serious words. Remember, Gemara and halacha are 1,000% important and necessary, and they're the top of the top, right? But they can't come at the expense of all those other things. It can't be disconnected from the ground. A snide comment here, a scornful glance there. The sun person causes us to rethink the entire journey, right? Such a person can mamish get to a moon person, can really say things to throw us off, to upset us, to right? Okay. So this is what he says. Such a place doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Forget about it. So I don't know exactly completely how this fits in exactly to what we're saying over here, but I gotta read one more quote, and then we're done. 1 or 2 quotes. Right? So this place doesn't exist. First of all, what are you doing? What are you going after tzaddikim? What are you trying to get close? What are you going to daven by a caver? What are you going to do segulas? What are you interested in all this stuff for? Right? Forget it. Don't waste your time. Sit and learn. That's it. Right? Those things are foolish. It doesn't exist. The thing that you want doesn't exist. So the viceroy has a pretty serious response. He bursts into tears. And he feels like how have I gotten here? What am I going to do now? Right? Where am I? He doesn't give up, though. He doesn't give up. The entirety of his shaken identity reverberates with a sentiment expressed in Theodore Roosevelt's famous declaration. Listen to this. This is beautiful. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. What a quote. Mamish. The prayer of Reb Nosson, then seriously, that's it. In Reb Nosson's prayer, he says like this: enable me not to see and not to hear anyone who seeks to prevent, withhold, scoff, ridicule, or confuse me. May no person be able to confuse me from the straight path of truth, even those who are greater and more righteous than me. Instead, may I merit to go in a way of simplicity, in accordance with what I have been taught from my youth by the words of our holy and true sages. Let me be accustomed to say, I don't know what is right for every person in the world. All I know is what is right for me in accordance with my level, as I have been taught, by the choicest of the true tzaddikim, who represent the point of truth in all worlds, says Reb Nosson. So this is where the Viceroy stands at this point, with this type of clarity and this type of expression. And this is what gives him the ability to look up from his tears and to look at this gigantic person in front of him. And what does he say? We're going to see in the next chapter, which we're not doing now. He says, "You're wrong. I know that it exists, and I'm going for it." Right? He had a little bit of a breakdown, but he's grown so much that now he breaks down a little bit and he moves forward. He stands up in the face of a giant and says, "Sorry, I'm doing it. I'm moving forward. I have confidence in what I've been giving from the true tzaddikim. I know I don't know about everything in the world, but I know about me, and I know about what the true tzaddikim and the advice that I've gotten from great people. And with that, I'm confident that I'm moving forward for me." That's it. That's the simplicity of the Viceroy at this point. Okay, we did it. Next week, 19, 20, 21. That's it. Okay, any comments or questions or additions or anything, Trevor?